Welcome to our lovely future humans, our 5D collective. To those who are new and to those who are regulars, let's chit chat about this discernment. So, learning to discern trends from that which actually works to build wellness and the lovely micro habits that we put into practice. If you're new, you don't know, but I heard it through the grapevine. Our new paradigm: nervous system sovereignty, aka self mastery. No, you need nervous system sovereignty in order to get self mastery. And so, with this lovely dopamine detox and the predictable crash zone from belief to trend discernment, I almost believe these to be true. Not really. I didn't know about the dopamine detox, but that's why I call dopamine yucky. As for the predictable crash zone, as I was finishing up Your Sovereign Blueprint Guide 1, a foundational guide, and the regulated leader, the bigger in-depth one, which came first, but it's the second depending on what you're ready for. And the 10-minute PDF, the 10-minute pivot in your ventral practice. When I came across the predictable crash zone, I was like, ooh, I just finished this up. I'm about to put it online. This will be good for me. And I'm like, wait a minute. Let me double check those reliable sources. Oh, it's not peer reviewed. Okay, so I almost believed these to be true. Then I realized they were trends and that they don't work. And also that they have people engage in journaling, mindset practices, and micro habits the wrong way because they give them this illusion that there is a one-stop shop done deal and that they can continue now to be happy forever. And that's why when you see people who are disappointed and they think that self-help tools are broken, and they weren't broken before when they were telling us to think positive, they're not broken now. Self-help tools are for people who are ready to help themselves because they can navigate their nervous system. And so you're in a body that you wield because you're in a brain that you wield, and it's integrated brain. And so we discern trends because we are smart, stable, mature, adaptive, rational, teachable. We also don't get disappointed when we meet those who are dysregulated and insecure, and they actually do a disservice, but they still offer us golden nuggets. And that's me talking about those impositions. So when you meet fear-based leaders, you're going to know love-based leaders create leaders because we empower people. We grow ourselves and we regulate. That's why we grow. So we notice when we're activated, and therefore 10-minute pivot is for those up. I'm activated. I'm going to put into practice that SMART framework, one of the letters, and or however it is you do it. And check out PayHip if you're curious about the content. But for a growth mindset and a wellness micro habit lifestyle approach, you're going to know that it's not jumping on any kind of passing trend and wave. You're also going to not dismiss any of that which is information because you're epistemically curious. We are in a completely new era. Thanks to the internet, we can talk to each other, and human development has consistently become more amazing to discuss and to engage in. And so it's rooted in epistemic curiosity. We are the somatic mastery with the mental mastery and true nervous system sovereignty because we know what our sovereign blueprint is made of. It's not because all of our brothers and sisters will want this and we leave it alone. So when a wellness trend, book, or speaking event pops up on your feed, promising a total life reset, please remember, it creates the illusion of that, which is a micro habit, being able to just do that all the time. There you go, you're done. Followers, they validate each other's likes, dislikes, their theories, like the flat earthers, and then they stagnate. Why? Because they're not growing personally. They're also not growing emotionally. So, for example, I believe very strongly in the capacity to consistently create a world where we will be able to engage in functional child-adult conversations. Because one, I'm from the future, but also because I know what you're made of. Our higher human potential is everyone's potential because it's an integrated brain and it's a self-regulating embodied brain. Okay, so with the capacity to choose well-being, you cultivate your nervous system sovereignty. You train the mind to pause before it consumes. It might be a small pause. It won't be that noticeable once you're practicing it, because eventually mastering the mind to do this practice of discernment to flow naturally, it will be like notes of music reaching your ears, or like a lovely beautiful beach with its waves crashing on a serene beachfront. I'm reading a little bit from that, which is a Substack article and one that's on LinkedIn, in case you want to go check it out. There will be more of these. I do tend to read to you all that which is for our free community. For our paid community on Substack, we're going to have some more mindset practices and journal prompt exercises. But meantime, here's the reflection embodied self-leadership framework I shared. So just like shifting our ventral state with that 10-minute pivot PDF free guide, a conscious pivot, you will train your discernment with a deliberate pause. Okay, so try running the information that crosses your feed or comes up through books or events or speakers through these 3 checkpoints. Although I'm going to say you might not do it while you're interacting, it might just be later on. I tend to do it while I am engaging, but that's because I wrote them, you know what I mean? So you might write something different, different checkpoints. But here's the reaction pause. I almost reacted, then I remembered sovereignty is a choice. Or if you want, I noticed I'm activated and my emotions are here, but they are signals, not my rulers, right? So your emotions are not my sovereign rulers. I'm the sovereign ruler. Eventually you're just going to be the flow of you mastering motion. That's going to be our 5th and last, or is it mastery motion? Hold on. No, playful mastery of intensity. The 5th and last episode for our embodied self-leadership mindset and journal series. It's a playlist on YouTube and or a podcast playlist. So it's going to be, well, the 5 main episodes plus 2 extras. So anyways, the source check. I almost believed it to be true. Then I remembered to check reliable sources. And so here's where you want to pause, like I did with the predictable crash zone, because I was getting ready to bring it in to the guides, the free, the paid, or somewhere to say, oh, hey, guess what? And I said, wait, let me go check those sources and the trend discernment. I almost believed it would work. Then I reminded myself to discern if it's a trend or not. And this one is for the dopamine thing. Because I consistently have been calling yucky dopamine, and I forget what it was, but I just said, is it possible for me to be happy without dopamine? Okay, so the article continues. Anchor your growth mindset and micro habit practices with ventral energy alignment. Wellness comes from intentional living. You build profound resilience by staying grounded, connected, and present within your sovereign blueprint. And that's why it's amazing to be able to be ventrally aligned. The 5D Collective, Mystics and Not, welcome aboard. And to be able to be your own regulated leader. So as a regulated leader of yourself, eventually you embody that which is self-leadership. And so this is a consistent dedication and repetition with curiosity at the forefront and integrity over time, because stability comes thanks to you repeating it. And I want you to understand that the ones who, when they're stable inside, are not familiar with feeling safe with it, in less than 5 seconds, Dana says that their old sympathetic pathway tends to come up and say, oh, I shouldn't feel something good because something bad is going to happen. And that's people who go to therapy. Okay, so when people are ignoring, they're ignorant of their own self, which is why if someone doesn't recognize that there's something that needs tending to, right, with addictions. I loved Dr. Daniel Fox's most recent video on addictions because it explains it's not just random, the addictions you have. And he goes through alcohol and cocaine and all the different ones and what it matches. So like people who can't turn down the volume of their emotional intensity and their mental intensity. So his educational content helps, but people need to go to therapy to continue working with someone who can give them that which is the ventral energy. Then they can sit with them like Dana trains her therapist to, okay, remember, you're going to be feeling safe. And then potentially all of a sudden, this is what's going to pop up. And then they're going to continue integrating because they want to, which is why I honor all of those who are healing their trauma. We don't need to heal. We are self-regulating autonomously. And then we are choosing to pivot, stay self-regulated, co-regulate in a room, entire, whatever it is, because that's our human makeup. That's the 5D Collective, mystic, spiritual, mindful. We're not special. We're not anointed. We're not unique. We're simply making use of that which is, we got the good end of the stick and our bodies can stay on. all the time. It's called abundance energy mode. And it's amazing. And to the Cains of the world, I will always say, God loves you too. You just don't know it yet, because I can't make you know how to self-regulate, and you won't believe me because you're going to say something bad's going to happen, Maria. You're a little smurf. You don't know what the world is made of. Yeah, you're dumb. And I'm going to be, sure, okay. Your intuition about the amygdala and temperament is spot on. They are foundational drivers of what captures our attention and what we find naturally interesting. However, neuroscience shows that they do not act instead of dopamine. Rather, they are the bosses that command dopamine to fire. So there are also, by the way, no studies that show of humans successfully driving themselves to act without dopamine, because structurally, dopamine is the universal currency the brain uses to turn an internal thought into an outward physical or mental action. So that was some of the research on the dopamine, because I said I believe you can have willpower without dopamine, but I don't know enough about the neuroscience research. And then I said I thought your amygdala alerting you to that of interest, so the amygdala alerts you to look at that, and that the temperament drives motivation. And that's because we have personality patterns and temperament with lovely Dr. Daniel's PDP framework. So for now, the answer suffices. I am not convinced, since there are no studies, but I'm not going to become a flat earther and say, I'm right. I know for sure we don't use dopamine just because I say yucky dopamine. Okay, so the part about being able to know this and that are true, and we have some information, and then I'm ignorant about a lot of the body's chemistry, so I can only know so much, and that our species continues to learn. So for all I know, at one point there will be studies, but that's the other part. What we have now, the new paradigm that I was talking about, where you only have self-mastery if you have nervous system sovereignty, it's because of the decade and more, 30, 40, 50 years, however long it's been, of our somatic and mindset, neuroscience, neurobiology, all the researchers and the ones who brought it all together and are still bringing it together because they care about our health and wellness. We are those who come after: mentors, content creators, podcast hosts, coaches, all of it. So self-help never was broken. Positive thinking, not a bad thing. If you can't think, it's because you can't sit good in here, and that's something that is now explained. People who don't want to hear it, that's their business, not ours. So 3D, 4D, dysregulated people, they suffer life because they ignore the one red flag that every other person that I've ever met that ignores. I stay home because when I go out, they're all the same. They're actually waking up miserable instead of waking up being able to feel life easily. So we don't collapse and we don't perform. No Eeyore, no Tigger. When we have emotional depth, we regulate intensity, which is why the volume, it don't go up in a way that is annoying. Regulating intensity is why when I heard about how our brain, this lovely flow state, which I'm consistently able to access, and so are you, neuroscientists will tell you, once you're this lovely abundance energy mode, okay? So you're being yourself the smart way, stable, mature, adaptive, rational, teachable. If you wish to anchor the practice of the ventral pivot, go check out PayHip for that lovely 10-minute practice. And as conscious individuals and consumers, just remember that personal and spiritual growth entail you choosing not to outsource your authority to an algorithm, but also just not to outsource the authority of your emotional and mental capacities. But remember that you need to first be able to handle you, and not like a child, and not in suppressing. So we're going from the I'm a sympathetic, no, that's the part. If you're self-sovereign, you aren't defending yourself against people and their opinions, you are actively at ease. If on the other hand, you're still handling your own sympathetic in that way, then that's the part. If you can do it, meaning you can spot your activation, your emotions, your effective realism, you choose to want to grow, you're going to continue unconditionally loving yourself and others with flaws and imperfections. You won't feel you're over adapting. You're going to know I'm in a room and I'm doing something that I can do because it's my human makeup. And so learning to discern trends from what works. First of all, what makes you want to be a person who's doing mindset practices, journaling, micro habits? Are you doing it because it's a trend? Do you want to look good for the summer? Is that why you're going to the gym? Or are you doing it for your health? So like I have sloppiness with exercises, but when I do them for my health, like anything else. And so moderation is always key, but also if you love yourself first, that's because you respect yourself in a way of all your child parts are good, your grown-ass person is good, and you're going to respect everybody else out there too. which is why you're not going to be a grandiose, insecure person. And you're not going to actually have a question about the flow state. Pushes the brain to the edge of criticality, of who gives you good information and then who got golden nuggets from good information and didn't notice that they kind of missed a little bit of a beat. And so the dopamine detox, what we have are people who, unfortunately, let me go see if I can find some, who think that by choosing to disengage from the doom scrolling and the playing video games and all that other stuff, that they're going to be changing their brain chemistry. I can't find the link, but at the end of the day, everyone uses dopamine when happy. So the addiction part is why it became this viral trend, and that's what happens to kids who don't get informed and to people who don't want to have science be a part of the classroom and a lot more. So, I mean, it really is sad to say. As for the predictable crash zone, it's not 11 to 20 days, it's 18 to 254 days. The neuroscience peer-reviewed. The landmark study on habit timelines conducted by Dr. Philippa Lally at University College of London. And so that is where there's a number of details about how the behavior can become automatic, and that's the statistical average being 66 days. The 60 to 70% motivation drop is around between day 1 to day 14 as neural novelty fades. So FYI. But in the meantime, if you're doing it for the right reasons, you're going to keep having fun as you get to grow yourself and you get to be a consistent contingent communicator with you and others, and then we get to continue to share with the kids how it's done. Love-based leadership. We create strong children because they're curious, and they're courageous and strong because they know how to wheel themselves. And then when others want to join us, we are always going to welcome all. And even those who have the minimum energy mode, they just won't know that we're co-regulating and supporting them because they won't know they're dysregulating. And that's at least for now. We'll be back with more. In the meantime, have a good one.